CenterPoint security policies allow you to control what functions within the program that users will be granted. Before assigning security policies, you should have turned on database security, set password security options, created database users, and created database user groups. There are videos for all of those functions within the program. In order to assign security policies, they need to be assigned at the user group level. So we have created some groups within our database. So underneath File and Security, underneath User Groups here, we have gone ahead and we have created some groups. I have somebody who is the accounting administrator, maybe more than one person, accounts payable, the accounts receivable group, administrators, who would have rights to everything within the program, payroll administrators, and then users that are only going to be allowed to review reports and maybe only certain reports. So those are groups that we've set up. So before going ahead and assigning security policies, you do need to go ahead and create groups for your users. And then you would take and assign the users to the group by going ahead and clicking on the assign users. And over here, you can see I have Carol, Ken, and Melissa as part of my payroll administrators group there. Okay, so that is a step that needs to be done before assigning the security policies. Then as long as you're logged in, have security turned on and are logged in as the administrator, you would then be able to go ahead and go to File and Security Policies. Okay, this is going to bring up a screen that looks like a tree that basically represents all of the menu options you have up at the top of the screen. So if I opened up a level of that tree here, that would represent menu options that I would get if I clicked on the File menu there. If I opened up the Processes one, for example, this would be the same as all of the menu options that I would get from clicking on the Processes menu up at the top. Notice over on the right, so when I go ahead and I highlight one of these, over on the right, it has a list of different user groups. So here are those different user groups that we had created. There's also a user group out there called the public. So if you don't get a user assigned to a specific group, they will become a member of the public group. Okay, so you do want to make sure that you set the control settings for the public group as you're going through this. So let's take an example of something that we would want to set policies on. I have a group of people that are my payroll administrators, and those are the only people that I want to be able to get into the payroll functions of the program. Okay, so one of those payroll functions, or some of those payroll functions, are found underneath my Processes menu under a section called Payroll, and this is where all of my payroll transactions are. Okay, so my ability to pay employees, enter in timesheet information, publish pay advices, and so on. All of those different screens are things that I only want my payroll group to be able to get to. So instead of having to highlight each menu option on this list, what I could do is I could assign the policy up here at the higher tier, and then all of these items below will adopt that same policy. So let's go ahead and see that. I'm going to highlight payroll up at the top. We're going to set the permissions for the public group to no, and then the payroll administrators to yes, and then all of the other groups here would get no. Okay, so everybody else would not have access to any of these payroll functions. So by setting the menu or by setting the policies up here at the top level, notice as I highlight each level underneath it, it has adopted those same policies. So what if I have one of these functions that I do want somebody to be able to do? For example, I might want those people that are my accounts payable people to be able to enter in timesheets. Okay, so what I could do, even though I've set the policy up here at this higher level, I can come down here to the lower level and I could say, well, for this one menu item, I want the accounts payable people or staff to be able to go ahead and enter that in. Okay, so they're going to be able to enter in timesheets. Okay, notice here that these levels here sometimes have a plus sign next to them as well. There might also be additional functions. So for example, I might want them to be able to enter in timesheets. So here they're able to enter in timesheets, but I don't want them to be able to see sensitive data, such as rates of pay. I only want them to enter in the timesheets. So here I could go ahead and say, no, they can't see the sensitive data. Okay, in other areas of the program, let's go over to purchases, for example. On the purchases menu, of course, I would want my accounts payable staff and my accounting administrators to have rights over here, but I don't want my accounts receivable staff to have rights there, or my payroll administrators. So I am going to go ahead and set this policy to no. My payroll administrators would be no. My accounts payable staff would be yes. My accounts receivable staff would be no. My accounting administrator, who's going to oversee all of the accounting functions, is going to be yes. And then my reports only group is going to be no. And again, it went ahead and it adopted all of these items. Well, one of the features of CenterPoint is being able to look at a report and drill down on that report and see the transactions that made up a number on a report, and to be able to bring up that transaction on the screen to be able to edit it and or view it. Okay, so there might be certain people while they're looking at a report that even though you haven't given them the rights to enter in and add new payments or delete payments or edit them, you might want them to be able to have the ability to view payments. So this is where I might say my reports only group has the ability to view those payments, but they can't void or edit, delete, or add any of these. I also have an option here as to whether or not they can display a bank balance. Okay. So just be careful and keep in mind that each one of these has some additional functions underneath it. So that is the overall process of setting these security options. One other thing that I do want to mention is there is an option up here for printing. Okay, so you can give people the function to print checks or go ahead and take it out. So if they can't, they might have the ability to enter in transactions, but not able to print the checks or print the invoices or print the payroll checks and so on. So that is a function too there that you can go ahead and control within here as well. Okay, other than that, it is really represented by different menu options and whether or not you want to give somebody rights to those menus. Underneath reports, if you are giving people access to reports, you can assign that access on a individual report basis. So we can come all the way down to these individual reports and we can go ahead and allow access to that report at a report level. That will include any variations of that report that have been saved as favorites. Okay, so when you're setting the policy as to whether or not a group has access to a report, we can go all the way down to the report level. So those were just some of those pieces that I wanted to point out there. Once you're done going through the menu system and assigning the security policies, you'll of course go ahead and click Save. And then of course you'd probably want to have some sort of report to show you which groups have rights to which functions within the program. So underneath reports, there is a section underneath setup lists and underneath general. There is a report there that shows you security policies by group, user group. Okay, and if you go ahead and preview that, and I only set a couple of the security policies here, it would go ahead and let's go down to one that we've set here. So let's go down to processes and payroll here, for example. You can see here where we have set the policies. You know, the accounting administrators don't have rights, accounts payable don't, accounts receivable don't. The administrators do, payroll administrators do, and the public does not, and the reports only group does not. So you can see what policies have been set by the different user groups. So that's a nice little report to just, you know, quickly be able to refer to, you know, to see what policies have been set by each for each group.